overlap.
Well, I want to tell everybody welcome today. Sorry we can't give Rick a little of a hard time. Kind of planned on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any citizen participation today? You not being a citizen today?
No, I'm an agenda item. Special.
You're special.
Do we need to are we supposed to introduce ourselves?
Oh, yeah,
I think we are.
probably should, yes.
I think we are.
Okay. John Yurgert, Chairman.
Chloe Noquist.
Ron Davis.
Tracy Salzbrenner?
Pam Dennehy, Director of Tourism. I don't know if I'm on it. I don't know that they're on.
My light's on.
I'm not
What's the
touching any
button to
buttons.
turn on, do you know? Not the cop button, remember?
No, I'm not touching anything. Not that one.
The hands-off emergency. Okay.
Power on?
Yeah. Okay,
Ah,
let's
there
try
we
that.
Testing.
There we go.
you go.
There we go.
I knew there was a button. Okay.
All right.
Pretty high tech.
Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes as presented?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Guess that brings us up to you, Lizzie. Elisa? Lizzie?
Elisa.
Elisa?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. So you'll notice your financials were a little bit different this month. This is the format that I'm going to use for every financial for the city of La Junta. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understood it. Yes, I know receivable is spelled wrong. It's been fixed. Turns out it was spelled both ways throughout the entire ADG system. It just depended on who typed it in when. So on your balance sheet, you have your cash, which is what's in the bank to cut checks right now. Then you have your investments. That's what we have put into Colorado Trust and into the Fidelity sweep account. The receivable is anything that we anticipate to receive. Sometimes that is the lodging tax, because we collect the lodging tax, and then at the end of the month, I have the general fund cut a check to the city, to the lodging tax fund. And the reason it works that way, if you think clear back to 2010, we wanted people to be able to file their lodging tax with their sales tax. So one form fits all. In doing so, whenever somebody files their sales/lodging tax, it automatically goes into a due to tourism GL, and it's a liability to the general fund. And then once all of the lodging tax has been paid, I cut the check to lodging. Now that the city estate collected, we may change that. But the biggest problem that I have is that everybody pays via, actually all but 2 of our hotels pay online via Point and Pay. And that Point and Pay goes into a different account that's accounted for in the general fund. So that's why it does go into the general fund and then it comes directly back out. I don't even think it sits there long enough to make interest. But so that receivable is what I would be putting in the following month. The reason there's no receivable this month is because all of the revenue that you received went into the December financial because they were December sales. That's why you have no receivable. And then your inventory, that is what Pam has on hand for her shirts. Okay. Then next to it you have your liability. Accounts payable is anything we owe. You'll see that we don't owe anybody anything. And then the Tarantula Fest, that is how much they have. And it's in a negative. And you're probably thinking they're in the negative. No, they're not. You owe them the money. Tourism owes them the money. That's why it's a negative. Make sense? Okay. Then you have your fund balance. Assets equal liabilities plus equity. Equity, fund balance, retained earning is all the same. So you take your assets minus your liability, and that is your equity. And at the end of 2023, your equity was $1,124,102.80. Then we have this plus or minus fund balance of $19,000, and I'm going to explain that. But that gives you a total fund balance of $1,109,795.64, which you will notice equals your total assets of $1,995,795.64. So you see those two numbers match? Okay. So now let's talk about that $19,000 change. That is your revenue minus your expenses. So your revenue month to date and year to date, because it's January. If they're not the same, I did something wrong because it's January. So you guys took in $4,211.16 in interest. Now remember, your tourism tax went back into 2023. That's why you don't have anything. Then you had your expenses of $24,000. So the difference, if you take the 4,200 minus the 24,000, you get $19,788.84. So expenses breakdown for you and for urban renewal, I break down what those expenses are so you guys are aware. I want you to know what the money went to. And then you have your budget to actual, and that's where I tell you that your budget is $247,000 less the $24,000 in expenses, and that leaves the remaining budget at $223,000. So it's essentially the same as you had before, it's just in a different format. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that format. So. Any questions?
This is always helpful. Thank you.
Good.
And another bonus up at the top where you see the City of Lahana symbol. Yeah, that'll go away. I didn't think about it, but mine doesn't have that. Mine has the tourism logo. Oh, there'll be the tourism logo on there from now on.
I had a quick question.
Okay.
On the Tarantula Fest, that $5,481.68, was that what was collected through the city and then put into the tourism, or is this something different?
Yes, yes. Yeah, okay. That was the money that the Tarantula Board collected,
Okay.
minus the expenses.
Right, okay.
There was a lot that was taken on her cube,
On the square, yeah, on the square.
on the square. Cube, square, and that came in later.
Okay.
And you can see it was a huge amount of money for you guys.
Right, that's great.
Yeah, so you're starting the year very, very well for the Tarantula
Which is
Fest.
awesome. Thank you. That's what I was hoping that was, but I just.
So, okay, so that's the amount in there, but then you say that's what we owe them, so.
No, the board, tourism owes the Tarantula Board. That's why it's a negative.
Okay.
It's not
So it's-
tourism's money.
Right.
We're just holding it.
Where it's just in so that's the money that's there for them. For the
Yes.
It's just, but it's gonna be reported this way, because we're not looking at it as revenue for
No.
the tourism fund. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I thought that's probably what it was. I just wanted
Okay.
to clarify.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, so even though it's shown, does it make sense that you owe them and that's why it's a negative?
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of people get confused if I walk in and I say, well, Tarantula has, and then you look at this and you're like, but it's negative.
Well,
Well,
it's just because all of the expenses were run through the city of Lahana, so that's what
Yeah.
we collected, that's what gets pulled out for the Tarantula
Yeah.
Fest.
because if they had their own bank account, it would be that bank account would have $5,481.68.
Okay,
But since it runs through the city, it is something we owe the Tarantula people.
got it,
Yeah.
okay.
And I know that gets a little confusing to some people, but if you think about the fact that the board owes them the money, then it makes sense that it's negative.
Got it.
So yeah, you guys are walking in really good into 2024. You got lots of sponsorship. I'm very, 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 very proud of the board. So, and this is your
This will be our third time.
third year, yeah. So, cool beans. If you have any questions, feel free to email, call me, whatever. I'd be happy to answer any of them. I just want to make sure that the new format was understood by everybody. And yes, I'm going to every board so that they have questions on the new format. But I think if you understand it, then it'll make it easier to have that consistency throughout the city.
Elisa, since you're here, because I know we had a conversation and I think I forgot to update the board of where we were with the investments and what you decided to do with the investments.
Oh,
I wrote it down and I don't think I reported it correctly, so.
so you'll notice that your investments are very liquidable. That means that I can get that money pretty quick, within 24 hours. That's how come you only have $50,000 in the bank, because if I need the money, I mean, nobody's gonna walk in and say, you need to pay me right this second. They can wait 72 hours. And so I put a majority of your money, damn near all of it, into Colorado Trust and the Fidelity Sweep account because of the liquidity of being able to get the money in 24 hours. I didn't see the point in worrying about whether or not I'm going to have to cut a check and pay something. And so when I originally was looking at your financials, you had 200,000 and then you had 800 in investments, and I just moved that 200,000 into investments, 100,000 in each. So when you get a very large project, then I'll be able to. But until then, let your money work for you.
Yeah.
I tell you to spend it like everybody else does, but she's just going to go get a grant, so I don't see the point in telling you to do that. That's why I always want to yell at everybody. It's not that they don't spend money. She goes and gets grants.
I'm good at leveraging our money, aren't I?
So,
Perfect.
but one of the best people I can see, where anytime you suggest something, she'll go find a grant for it.
I certainly try. Thank you for that clarification.
So yes, so that's how come your investments are so high, and they will continue to be. I will probably leave your cash at around 50,000. I do that with urban renewal.
Okay. I just
And believe it or not, 50,000. All of the bank accounts automatically do the 50,000 for the utility funds and for the general fund. They automatically do that. I have to manually do it for yours, so sometimes it gets a little higher, sometimes it gets a little lower. But I try to keep it at that 50,000 so that your money is being leveraged in as much interest as possible. Especially since I said it's going to go down this year. But if you looked at last year, you see how much interest we made with the city as a whole, especially you guys. You made a buku amount of money. I think it was almost 20,000. I'd have to go back and look, but it was a lot. So, and like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Just kind of adding on to the financials, I know we talked last time too about specifically how Elisa is reporting it for us now since 2022, and she's putting in the actual sales in that lodging tax statistics sheet that she's doing. So I went ahead and I updated this for us. This is what I used to do. If you remember, before Elisa started giving us these reports. So this goes back to the conversation of the grants that Elisa is talking about. When we get asked about grants, they ask about averages, they ask about what our most visited months are, and the way that the lodging tax was being reported, it was skewing those numbers. So I went ahead and put these numbers in here so we can track. This is not going to match necessarily what she's reporting, because she's reporting from the revenue expenses. This is just from the actual sales. I think the money comes out in the wash just because it's going to be in different pots in her spreadsheet, but this is a way for us to say that we could go and say, yes, September and October, which are August and September are our biggest months on average. And then we can look at our, January and March or our lower months. So then I think that's also a way for us to talk strategically about how we can look for maybe promoting months or different things that we can do where we know we have lower months, or that would be considered our off season, which is also another question we get a lot. So I went ahead and updated this all the way back, just so we have it all the way back to 2010. That year-over-year bottom number is just the increase, the decrease that you see from year-over-year. So obviously right now we're showing a 94% decrease because we've only collected January. But our numbers look down 3% from 2022 based on what we collected in actual sales. Now again, if you look at Elisa's numbers, hers might show technically in 2022 the numbers, hers is showing we collect $240,000, but those were not actual sales. So that $49,000 in 2023 in January, so it gets a little confusing, but just I think this is a good way for us to kind of track the less financial of it and the more actual sales. And if you are okay with this, I don't know that I'll plan to report this monthly, just because she has it in the actual sales, but I can print this off yearly, so we can continue to have this as an update. Because obviously the averages won't, now that we've seen 2024, but that'll be my plan, is to just update this sheet, and I'll keep track of it, and so we'll have it. But just did want to have that for us.
I want to just throw something in and thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Pam, for doing the cumulative since 2010. And I think, I don't know how many Facebook people we have on, but I think one of the things that we all hear is we take in all this money and we don't spend it. And they see that, for instance, this year, 220,000, actually 227,000. I used the wrong figure just doing my quick stuff. But we brought in from lodging tax at 4.5%, $227,000. And people don't see that as helping them at all, because it goes into the lodging tax. What people don't, and I'm going to keep harping it, I'm going to go to kitty council, I'm talking to friends. What people don't realize is at the same time those tourists were paying that $4,894,000 that generated that $220,000 for us. At the same time, those tourists paid 3% sales tax that came to the city and became $146,834. So while we generated $220,000 for the lodging tax, we generated for the city of Lahaina $146,000. If you look at our 10-year totals and go back over 10 years, we have brought in the lodging tax $2,325,862. That means tourists have paid in $51 million since 2010. And for people that are even friends but don't understand the impact of tourism, they think, why are we doing this? That 51 million generated for the city of Lahaina since 2010, $1,550,000. That, no other fund can say that. And for people to ask why tourism, and businessmen to ask why tourism, then I kind of question if they're really as effective as they could be in business. I mean, it's bringing a lot of money to this town, and we need to quit saying.
That's just lodging.
I agree. I
That is
hadn't gotten
not,
to that.
that
I'm
is
getting
not
to
the
that.
restaurants, that
I
is
totally
not.
agree. I wasn't even there yet.
Yeah, none of
That's
that.
only lodging tax. That isn't what they spend everywhere else. Walmart, restaurants, all of those things. And for us to ask why tourism is the wrong question for all you Facebook people to be asking. What we should be asking is how can we help tourism? And it's not bad-mouthing Lahana. Rest my case.
You are correct. Yes, it's a lot of money that you guys have brought in. And I'm not even talking about lodging.
I agree.
I mean, people need to think about, and this is something I'm just gonna throw right out there. Let's talk about the Tarantula Fest, real quick.
Yep.
How many people stayed in motels? So they paid sales tax, they paid lodging tax, and you only got the lodging tax. How many booths were there? How many businesses were selling things? When they sold things, they collected 3% sales tax for the city of La Junta. How much money was generated just at that event alone by all of the booths that people bought, all of the hotel stays, any restaurants they went to? They paid 3% for all of that. So just that one event probably brought in $250,000,
At least.
if not more.
At least.
Yeah. So the question, like you said, isn't why, the question is what can tourism do and how can businesses utilize tourism to bring more people in to spend more money to create more money? Because it takes money to make money. And you are 100% right. And I don't know why people say what they do, but ignorance is.
I have a word for it, but I probably better not say it.
Let's just say ignorance.
But it's not in black and white because I use blue ink. It's in blue and white.
Yeah, but yes.
Fairly
you guys-
obvious that we
you
need
guys
to
bring in
support
a-
tourism. We're always asking what we can do to help raise money for the city of La Junta. It's to shut up, quit about bad-mouthing, get behind tourism, bring people in to spend sales tax to help support our general fund. And that's what we're here for.
And not only
So-
that, you want to bring people in to pay, because if you
Yeah.
don't bring people in to pay, then the citizens have to pay.
Right.
Because the streets need to get the money to be fixed somewhere.
Right.
So the more people that come into our town and spend money, the more money the city gets.
Well, and the more money we as individuals spend in our town, the better off we are.
Yep.
The driving force of any community is retail, and that raises sales tax.
Yep.
And we spend an awful lot of sales tax in Pueblo, and then gripe about what they have and we don't. So, now, I'm off my soapbox, we can go on with our.
Thank you, Lisa.
I just wanna say something on that though. This guy comes to mind when I think of tourism too, because I don't know how many times through the years, his company went out and bailed out a tourist who had flat tires,
Absolutely.
stuck in the mud. I mean, it's not just retail, it can be all kinds of businesses that we're so blessed to have here in La Junta. So don't just think it's retail, because he saved our bacon and those tourist bacons many, many times for many, many years. So we appreciate you.
Mhm.
Those are all good points, so. Okay, thank you, Elisa.
I told you, you converted me.
I know, right? Yeah. She's living proof.
All right.
Give that girl a shirt.
She has one.
I have one.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion as far as financials, guys? Any questions? Means you did good.
Do you need a motion to approve the financial?
Oh, shoot.
Yes.
So moved?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Pam?
Yeah, so I just kind of want to give a few updates. I know there's been a lot going on since we met last. One of the things I think top of mind that's come up a lot is Bensold Fort, National Historic Site. And so I know that has been a big thing that's been on Facebook. I do feel like we were talking a little bit before the meeting. But you can't believe everything you read on Facebook. It's not always fact. So Bensold Fort did send out an email with information. Bensold Fort is one of our biggest partners, bringing in a large amount of the lodging tax people are seeing there. And they're a federally run organization. So I think it's important to say here, I also said it at City Council, that Visit La Junta, the City of La Junta, Otero County does not have any oversight over what is happening at Bensfield Ford. We are a partner of theirs. We are in communication with them, but that's kind of where that ends. They did put out information on the reduced winter hours. A lot of the second level restrictions are because of safety, and their explanation on livestock reduction and so forth. So I just wanted to include that there, and kind of put that out there that we are monitoring this. We are in communication with Bensford and will continue to do so. Any other thoughts or questions on that? Okay. Other thing, every year we do an annual report for the city, and then this annual report goes into the book. It's kind of similar to the budget that they do, so then all of the annual reports will go into a book that's then sent out and available. So I presented at City Council on I think it was the 5th of February or 6th of February. And it's always nice to put the annual report together for us to look back and see what we've done. I always try to highlight the collection we have there and what we've done in the past year, highlighting that we did receive another grant for that $75,000 that's over the two-year period. So that's just in here for your information, and that again will be included with the main city annual report. The other thing I wanted to update on is the short-term rental data compliance. I did have a meeting with the CTO folks last week, just talking through the best way to go about doing this. If you remember correctly, at the end of last year, I think maybe November, anyway, I had presented a proposed, I don't know if it was, but a proposed plan to go after this short-term rental compliance, and CTO felt like this was a good company to go with. They also had a report run for us from a different organization that kind of said around the same thing, that we could recover up to $10,000 in revenue. That's not guaranteed. I've talked a little bit to Elisa about this, and then in talking through with the CTO, what this company will help us do is, if you go right now and you search on Airbnb, you're not going to get the addresses or the information on the people that have those Airbnbs. So this company will help us identify that. So then we, probably Elisa and I, will start to figure out how we can start talking about collection. I think it's very challenging of what we're trying to do, because Elisa and I were talking, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, Elisa, but the problem is that for Airbnb, for example, the sales tax is being collected, but the lodging tax is not being collected. So we're going to have to figure out that step further to get them to be collecting that. So right now there's no money, they're not collecting any money. It's not like money's being collected and not being given to us. It's not being collected, period. So we've got to figure out how we get to that next level of getting Airbnb or the individuals or the organizations, because KOA does have some Airbnbs, of how they can be collecting that, and then we would then collect that. So I think we have, I have some questions for this company, because I'm not sure exactly where they help. If they help us with that compliance piece, I don't think they help us with the collection, but I do think they help us to get to that point. The other thing we talked about was with the CTO is our ordinance. I don't know if that will affect anything when we go to talk to Airbnb, because our ordinance was in 2010, and that was before short-term rentals were really a thing. So I don't know if we need to look at adding that. I don't know if that will make any difference for Airbnb, and so I think there's a lot for us to learn, but I do think that this company that we can work with will have a lot more answers than we currently have, and hopefully we'll be able to recover some of the revenue, or maybe know once and for all that, I don't know, that, because it does seem like right now Airbnb is making it really hard for small communities like us to collect. So that's the other nice thing about the CTO is they've sent, the city of Ouray was helpful to send information of what they've put together that they're using. So I do feel like with the CTO, we don't have to start from ground zero, that they're gonna help us through this. So moving forward on that, don't know what it's gonna turn out, but I do think, and Elisa has agreed to work with us on this to see what we can move forward. So that's kind of the update there, and I'm hopeful we can. I also think one of our best, I shouldn't say best because I don't want to, but Brad is, because he's very interesting at the KOA, he's got the Airbnb with the cabin, and then he also collects lodging tax, and he has been very good at working with us. So I think he's going to be able to help us to learn how we can do this as well, because he has a lot more knowledge about Airbnb than we do. So I'm haven't had a chance to call him, so I'm going to be looking at Brad kind of being our pilot of how we make this work, to collect it and get that in. So.
Yeah. So has anybody tried contacting Airbnb?
Yes,
Or
Lisa
maybe-
has, Brad has.
Airbnb itself?
Yeah.
Oh, we've sent letters, we've made phone calls, we've done, yeah, this is not, we've,
Yeah,
how
this-
many letters can you send before you just decide to give up? And we're not the only ones. The KOA is sending letters, we're sending letters.
You know, it'd be interesting to just say, all right, I've got an Airbnb, or I wanna start an Airbnb, what do I do? And to see what they say and say, okay, what do I do about lodging tax, and just see what they say.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
At this point, they say it's not their responsibility to collect it.
Yeah.
I was trying to look, I would've swore that we paid a lodging tax on one this last year when I stayed there. I tried looking at my receipts and I deleted them now. But
Well, I think one of the things we've heard, and Brad has ran into this too, is that if a city is big enough, Airbnb will say, yes, we're gonna help, we'll collect the tax for you. I think what we were essentially told, and I'll confirm this because it wasn't a conversation I've had, but through the conversation, is Airbnb has pretty much said we're too small, that it's not worth their time to collect like they would on behalf of a larger destination. So yes, very, very much so that could be that you are paying it in other destinations, but they're pretty much saying what we're experiencing. And I have heard, I mean, when I talked to this gentleman from Granicus is the name, and even my CTO contact, Airbnb is not wanting to help us because it's more taxes that they're having to collect.
I'm sure it's quite a bit of work for them.
Yeah.
I mean, as far
So,
as that goes.
So that's one of the things we talked about too, is if more of the ordinance needs to be for the Airbnb piece to say, hey, we have this ordinance, we need to be collecting versus a voluntary collection, we're not sure. But it's not necessarily the people that are running Airbnbs here. I think that it's Airbnb is not making it easy for them to collect. And so yes, that's.
One other question I had, you said something about $10,000, was that for the year or for a month?
That would be, what this report said was there's potential loss of $11,000 in revenue over the year that we're losing out on these, based on, simple math, kind of what they did. We have X amount of properties charging this amount if they're at this occupancy rate. So that was just kind of their guesstimate that it could be up to $10,000. Because that was the main thing I asked, is how much for us to hire you as a company, how much is this gonna cost? Because if it's gonna cost more than we would bring in revenue, then it wouldn't be worth it. And the other thing they did say is once you've got them in compliance, once we have the Airbnbs in what they call compliance, then we probably wouldn't need their service anymore. It's just to help us get to that point. So then even if, you know, in future years it's $5,000, it's still more than what we are. And it, you know, we're not the only community dealing with this. I think we're fortunate in that a lot of communities are dealing with the fact that there's too many short-term rentals and how they do that, and that's causing different conversations with locals not being able to buy houses. I don't think we're at that point, so ours is very much a different. But CTO is hearing a lot about this, and so they've been very helpful in how to move through with this, and offered to review our ordinance and do whatever they can to help out. So I think moving forward and seeing where this gets us will, hopefully we can sit here at this time next year and say we have a lot more answers is what I'm hopeful for.
To add to Pam, our biggest thing is the compliance, the level playing field. That's really our biggest thing, is the level playing field. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it isn't fair to the hotel, I
Right.
mean, really, think about it.
And
There's what, 16 Airbnbs listed here and,
Yep.
and one VR, so I mean, it is fair.
Yeah. So that, I think if I understand that the way this company works, and we'll learn more, is that they will help us identify and get us in contact with those 16, so then we can work on the compliance piece and then go through that. So. Right. Just going back to my notes here to see what else. So the Destination Development Mentor, as a reminder, that's another grant that we got. This grant is not a monetary grant, it's the 100 hours of consulting. And that is going to be to form a tarantula working group so we can talk about tarantula tourism season and Tarantula Fest. And our first meeting is actually today. We've invited law enforcement, we've invited federal land, like the U.S. Forest Service, and we have invited some private property owners to come and have a conversation, facilitated by Amy Cassidy. She had a list of questions and guiding questions for them, so that we can start to really hear from all the different aspects of the challenges we're running into, and then from there we're hoping to come up with some a way to implement that and get that information out and market it more from a care for Colorado idea. So Colleen, if you'll remember, is our board appointed person that will be serving on that, since she's for many reasons, but she has a U.S. Forest Service background, and then she's also working with us on the Tarantula Fest committee. So she will be part of that working group. And we'll have the meeting today, and then from that, if people weren't able to be at the meeting today, Amy will probably reach out if people are willing to have individual conversations with them, so we can still get that information from them, and then start to put the information together. And then we'll probably have, I think it's maybe one more meeting as a follow-up, but all of this is supposed to be wrapped up by June 2023. Which will be in time for the tarantula season. Colleen, did you want to add anything on that?
No, I think once we have the meeting, then we'll know more. We can share the next tourism meeting.
Yeah.
I do have the agenda, and it looks good. I mean, if you guys want to hear it, I can certainly give you that.
Sure.
Okay.
I left it in the other room, sorry.
I don't think I have the agenda. Maybe I just have the questions here.
I can pull it up on my computer too.
I can read you what the goal is. This group is focused on solutions-oriented approach to improving visitor experience and behavior during Tarantula Fest and Tarantula tourism season. The following questions have been prepared to gain a better understanding of user impacts observed by stakeholders, partners during the tarantula tourism season. And I think that's important because it's not just the Tarantula Fest. I mean, this thing goes on, it can go on for up to 2 months, 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks, depending on the weather and, you know. And she asked a whole bunch of questions and she wanted answers to them. And so that's what this group will be doing. And if you have the agenda, Pam, sorry, I thought I had it here.
No, so we're gonna be talking, we're gonna review impacts from tarantula tourism from public lands, private lands, roadways, to the community. Then we're gonna be have a discussion on prioritizing those impacts and areas. And then we're gonna move into talking about the messaging and tactics that goes into the visitor life cycle, communications channel, what can Visit La Junta support, Parker talking about the partnered working group resources and additional volunteer support. And then we'll probably schedule our next meeting. So just a way to kind of have that conversation. I think CTO2 is really good at, if you remember when we went through this with the destination, imagination, and restart, where we kind of put, and I don't know if it'll take this same format, but where we kind of put that lead partner advocate thing, is, you know, I think a lot of great things are gonna come up today, but I think we need to be realistic about what Visit La Junta could do in support of that, and how we can reach out. So what does that look like too? So if things are coming up about some of these conflicts, like what can we as Visit La Junta do to help that? And then having law enforcement there, we invited the Otero County's Sheriff's Department, the La Junta Police Department, and we also, I believe, she's able to attend. We have a captain from the State Patrol. So, you know, having that law enforcement conversation of these, how can we work together, I think will be really important, instead of it just something that Visit La Junta, you know, our reach to some degree is only so far. So I think it'll be a really good conversation, and I'm hopeful, even if people weren't able to show up today, they'll still have conversations with Amy that she can glean this information from. Okay. The other thing I mentioned in the city council report, which I'm still working on and will kind of keep you guys apprised, is a reminder that the America 250 Colorado 150 Commission, that commemoration is in 2026. So, and when I was presenting at City Council, Rick reminded us that La Junta's in 2026 will be 145 years. So we could even look at that, 250 for US America, Colorado 150, and La Junta 145. So basically we're going to be looking at recruiting advisory people to really help promote this. You know, I think that maybe some information at the Tarantula Fest would be a great thing to start getting the information out. So we'll continue to learn more about that, but that is something that I continue to monitor and be involved with. Those are the main things that we're working on. You know, this month was a good example of, I had a lot of stuff on my to-do list, and it shifted when different things arose. So, you know, try to be as responsive as we can. In good news, Amache was, and I actually just got an email on this, of the CTO was emailing to ask, is it a national park, is it a historic site? But on Friday, excited to announce both its formal establishment of the Amache National Historic Site, formally established as America's newest national park. So the CTO actually just emailed and had a really good question about, is it a new national park like Rocky Mountain National Park, or is it a national historic site being operated by NPS? And so I pulled in Eric Leonard, and he's since, and I think it's very technical how they do that. Nonetheless, the exciting thing is Amache is now under the National Park Service, so we have 3 national park sites in our region, which is very exciting. We have Sand Creek, Bensport, and now Amache. So I think we'll be hearing a lot of promotion and publicity on that, and that's very exciting about that. So I think that's all that I have on my list to mention. Are there any questions, or do board members have any updates?
I just wanted to say, I thought you did a great job presenting, and I really liked the part when they asked how you had time to do your laundry, and you said that's what husbands were for.
Yeah, me too, I love that.
Yeah, sadly, that was the first thing that came to mind.
For him or for you?
Well, it was funny, because I didn't want to, yeah, so that one made me giggle, and you never know, I was like, where is this going, where is this going? So I did have to go home and say, hey.
Hey, sorry about that. Threw you under the bus.
Yeah. But no, I think the council is very receptive to what we're doing. I also let them know that well, you guys all watch, so, the other thing, looking at the website refresh, which I think will be another big project and exciting project for us this year, so.
I have nothing more.
And the only other thing I guess I'll mention too, Colleen, is next Tuesday we're going to have our first Tarantula Fest meeting. And that is tentatively, well, I don't think it's tentatively. We're scheduled for the 27th and the 28th, which is a Friday and Saturday, but there is some conversations about possibly adding Sunday tours. So we'll start having that conversation, and more of that will come out when we start meeting. So.
And we would invite anyone that would like to come. I think we really are gonna have to look at finding more volunteers to help us out. It's getting too big for 5 or 6 people to manage, so anybody that might have time to.
You guys have done a great job, though.
Maybe too good for our group, we just need to expand volunteers. So if you guys want to help out in any way, which I know you do lots of things, or if you have family members that would like to help, we would appreciate anyone. We need more boots on the ground, that's for sure.
I have an update for Picket Wire, I guess I will say. So we have a show coming up next weekend. So February 29th, March 1st, and March 2nd. It is called The Underpants, and it is a comedy. It is a Steve Martin comedy, so if that doesn't give you enough there, it's really fun, really funny. One kind of different thing that we're doing this year, we're trying it just to see how it looks, is we will have season tickets available. Obviously, the season tickets are only going to be available up until this first show, because once the first show goes, the season ticket isn't really any good anymore. So it is a huge price break if you do choose to do that. So for one season ticket for all 4 of our shows is going to be $70. So that is, may I say how low that is. When you go to one show at, we're not even talking the Buell. I mean, if you've looked at prices for the Pueblo Memorial Hall, it is their one price tickets are about $80. So, so it is a really, really, really good price. That'll get you tickets to all 4 shows. You can pick your seats. I know there's some people that I like these seats right here. Well, that's one way to also secure that you will get those seats for all of your shows. So, and that does include a 2 ticket for the Masked Singer, because it is a 2-night event. So please go get those. You can get them at picketwireplayers.org/tickets. You can get your season tickets, or you can get just tickets to the Underpants for next week.
Thank you.
Reschedule the meeting.
So yeah, I have a couple conflicts, and I always want to say when I have conflicts, if you guys would like to meet, then, but these are dates. I will be in Arizona in March for spring break, and then there's a conference in April at this same time. So I guess those are 2 questions. If you guys would like to meet without me, that's an option, or these are just a couple of dates that could work. I don't wanna go too soon because as a reminder, we usually get our financials on the 7th of the month. So just wanted to put that out there.
What dates are you available? I
Oh,
mean-
sorry, I put them on the March
26th.
26th.
Oh, sorry, was
No, that's okay.
Okay.
And April 30th.
I'm good with those
Yeah.
days.
Okay.
I don't know about everybody else, but.
Yeah.
We need our fearless leader.
Well,
Those are fine for me.
and then that would put us on track since there's that 5th or 6th Tuesdays in April. Then we'll meet on the 21st. So it won't feel as, April and May might feel a little close, but if you guys are good with that, then we'll, okay?
Yep.
I will let Melanie know for the public of that, and
Cool.
I haven't gotten another draft of the video. I did send all the pictures, so once I get that, I let them know. I was pretty, I went back and I watched it, and a lot of the comments I further provided after hearing your comments is that it felt very much like a Comanche National Grassland video. I also felt like it was very green and brown, and there wasn't a lot of color or vibrancy to it. And I think it needed to be a little bit more vibrant. So that's kind of where they were at, and I know Tracy was on those emails. As a reminder, she's our board kind of liaison for that project. So sent them some new pictures, and we'll wait to see what that second draft looks like. Yeah.
Good.
And I did read the script at the council meeting. I do like the script and where we're kind of at, so I'm hopeful we'll get there, so. That's all I have.
Good. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go end us on live and then we'll be good.
Thank you, Lisa.
Good job.
It may cost us some advertising.